Welcome back to the From the Ground Up podcast. This is a podcast for Dow Smith Company's employees, clients, and friends. Dow Smith Company is a design builder here in beautiful Smyrna, Tennessee, and we design and build commercial buildings, medical facilities, and churches. And today we are going to be talking to our CEO, Joey Rhyne, who has been here for 20 years.
20.
2 decades, 20. And just to get this conversation started, I was thinking, Joey, about, you and I have been on some client meetings a couple times recently, and I'm just so impressed with your ability to sit down with the client, listen to what they're saying, really truly make them feel heard, and then almost kind of like diagnose what the issue is, how we can help, and if we can't help, how someone we know can help. I sat right here in this room and watched you with someone who'd been trying to get a hold of somebody for weeks, and you just texted that person, they text you right back. And I think that just speaks volumes about your 20 years here, the experience that you bring to every project, and the deep connections that you have in the community. So we'll eventually get back to that, but let's just start with why construction? 25 years ago, when you're thinking about what you want to do for a living, what got you into construction?
I ask myself that question every morning.
And why still construction?
Yeah, that's a great question. I went to Belmont University, and I didn't apply to any other school, and it was always a dream of mine to go to Belmont. I had family and friends who went there, and I grew up I grew up in Hendersonville, but my church, particularly the staff members at my church, were a huge part of my life. And I didn't really know how significant of influence they were in my life until, on into my late 20s and 30s. And even today, I'm still recognizing the impact that they had. I come from a broken home. I've got my mom and dad, great people, love me very much. But I come from a blended family. And so my church, my experience of my community there in Hendersonville had a significant impact in my life. So I went to Belmont. I'm thinking, well, what do good Christian kids do? Well, they go into youth ministry. They want to be on staff at a church. So I went to Belmont. I did minor in business. My dad's was the CFO at Lifeway, the Baptist Sunday School Board for well over a decade. He was there 42 years. But I was a religion major, and always loved ministry. I always loved serving people, and we'll talk more about how that translates to Dow Smith. But I always loved serving people. I love relationships. And so when I graduated, I was done writing papers. I had zero interest in seminary at that time. I was burnt out. I was married, and I went to work for a church full time out in Franklin. And I got hurt really badly. It was a terrible experience, and so thankfully I had some people in my life who taught me through some things, and decided to switch gears a little bit. And my father-in-law was an architect in Brentwood, so here I am. I'm a 22-year-old married young man. I got married early. Wife at home who was still in school, and I just needed a job. And he knew of a gentleman in Franklin who was starting his own construction company. He had been working for Biskin and another contractor here in town, and he needed a project manager. So I talked with that owner for quite some time, for several meetings, and I had some business sense to me. My dad mentored me quite a bit. We flipped cars and scalped tickets growing up. So I knew to buy low and sell high, and and had obviously had many jobs working through high school and college, but he got me a job. My father-in-law referred me, and I got a job at a construction company. And I tell people my first day in construction, I'd never looked at a set of plans. I'd never been on a construction site other than perform mild vandalism.
Mild vandalism?
Moderate.
Oh,
I'll call it moderate.
Moderate vandalism.
So I started, and I needed to feed my family, and I needed a job, and so Dave gave me that opportunity, and I just kind of started wading in. I did everything in as far as the general contractor does. I did demolition, started estimating, project managing, I was a superintendent, daily cleanup. I did everything those first first, second, third, fourth year with Dave, and learned the ropes and cut my teeth. And so that's really how I got into construction by default. I knew I liked people. I knew I love helping people. I love the fact that I could actually see tangible results of my work. That's one thing hard about people in ministry is they don't get to hold or feel or see everything that they do, because spiritual things are so hard to measure. So it really fed my productivity strength to see some product. So that's kind of how I got my start.
And when you were there, were you all living in Brentwood, or you were living?
We lived. So my wife, when we got married, she lived in Nashville. So we needed to live. She went to Middle Tennessee State. We needed to kind of live in an affordable place, somewhat in between Belmont and Middle. And what do you know? Sam Ridley had just widened there, and we found brand new apartments along Sam Ridley. We were one of the first tenants. $525 a month, and we just picked the place on a map, and by God's providence, ended up in Smyrna. So that we've been in Smyrna, the whole Smyrna Laverne, since we were married in 1999, and so that's how I ended up there. It's truly it was a geographic decision to come to Smyrna.
Now, did that play? Because I was going to ask you, like, at what point did you meet Dow? I would imagine just living here and being around town.
Yeah, I met Dow. I had met Dow twice before we actually had an interview. Dow and my previous employer, they had a meeting at a country club in Brentwood, and I went to see my old boss, and he and Dow were having lunch. So I got to meet Dow there at that lunch at a golf course in Brentwood. So that was my first meeting with Dow. Dow, I had friends who went to church with Dow, Brad and Allison Bynum, and I met Dow at their wedding.
Oh, wow.
So the Bynums got married a few years after Christy and I did. Christy and my wife, she was the maid of honor there. So they had grown up in the same church that Dow and Cindy attended. So I met Dow at that wedding. So Dow and I had two occasions where we met, but never had really a conversation or anything like that.
So what happened that led you to have that, I guess, that third meeting with Dow, and he said, hey, why don't you come to work here?
Well, we have a saying around here, when you're sick and tired, nothing changes until you get sick and tired. So I was working many, many hours at my old job. Culture was changing, and I was kind of feeling led to get back into ministry, maybe full time. I had a young child at that time, so Landon was born in 2003, and everything changes when you got a baby.
Yep.
And we had bought a house right beside Laverne High School, and had planted our roots here in Smyrna, and so I had decided that something needed to change in my life. I was working too much and was miserable, for lack of a better term. So I'm gonna be transparent and vulnerable. And I was looking for a job. So the week before I made the move, had already decided, turned in my resignation. Brad Bynum and Allison Bynum connected me with Dow. Dow had made a post about needing a project manager, and through that connection, arranged a meeting with Dow at his home. It was a Wednesday night. early January of 2004. I went and visited Dow at his home over on Woodland Drive, and we had our first visionary integrator huddle at that point in time.
Wow.
It sure did.
Wow. So what was, when you had that first visionary integrator huddle,
Yeah.
what was kind of, take me back to like, what was the topic of conversation back then? Like, it's, people know us now, but to imagine like Dow Smith Company
Yeah.
20 years ago and what it was like.
Just to put it into context, and celebrating 20 years, I've kind of gone back and reflected. Dow was 37. I was 25, nearly 26. 2004. Yeah, I was 25, and so we're young. We're young, and of course we had never heard the word visionary integrator before, but so Dow's a 37-year-old. Honesty is best. His business was struggling. Dow Smith Contracting was not in a good place, and to be honest, I was not in a good place. I needed employment, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So the first, I'm thinking about now for the first time as far as in the context of this podcast, but Dow and I have had honest conversations from the very get-go.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of our first conversation was we use a new tool now called Brutal Facts. So Dow and I shared the brutal facts. Dow shared with me where he was in the business and successes they had, failures they had, things where they were struggling. I'd share with Dow where I was, what my heart was telling me that, hey, I needed my work to be ministry, and so it was an honest, heartfelt meeting. I kind of share with Dow my experience, and he hired me that night.
Wow. What was your, what did he hire you as?
I was a project manager. So that time Dow had he had some transition. He had no project manager, no estimator. He was doing it all himself. We literally, he said, oh, I'm gonna offer you a job. He said, because I was selling, and he had said, well, I'm thinking about selling my business. He was in conversations about selling Dow Smith. So there was a limited commitment on both our parts other than, hey, and I said, well, I'm thinking about going back into ministry. And we literally said the words, well, we'll just ride the roller coaster as long as it lasts. So we have been on that roller coaster for 20 years. And so we shook hands, came to terms, talked turkey, and I started about a week and a half later.
Do you remember what that first week was like? Like what
I do.
Projects you were working on?
I do. So I walked into Dow's office over on Jefferson Pike. The stack on his desk was literally about 3 feet tall, the project management stack, and
some of those papers are still in a stack on his desk now.
Yeah, they may be. It may be, and we were working on Sloan's Honda. We're doing some work for Bubba Woodfin. Somebody had just had driven through the front door at Regal Furniture. Was working on the Katy building. Almost started work at the Katy building on Cedar Grove Road. Had been in discussions with the Old Jefferson Church of Christ.
So it wasn't like he was struggling for business. It was just
no. He was coming out. He was coming out of a very hard time, and there was some. He can speak that. The business had already begun to change a little bit. Trending towards, hey, the design build method. He was part of a network called Jack Miller Network and was learning best practices. He had decided he'd pay the new man's price of the hard bid, low bid scenario, and I had already started doing some design build work where I was. So the first week, I'll tell this story. Everybody will appreciate, especially those who know Dow. Because I thought, wow, I'm gonna really be able to. I can be effective here. Like I can get this done. I'm 25, 26. Thought I was something, and I said, Dow, I think I'm really going to be able to help you here. I think this is going to be good. He said, good, because if you're not, I'm going to fire your ass. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. All right, Dow, thanks, man. But so it was honest, and you know what? It's fantastic. So I knew I needed Dow and he needed me, and we just put our bumpers down on the roller coaster and we kept rolling.
It's wild how in 20 years that dynamic really hasn't changed. Like you both still, there's a yin and a yang there with,
very
with
much
you
so,
guys.
very much so, and it's worked really well.
At what point did you kind of realize like this is the place where I want to be?
Yeah.
Or have you realized that yet?
Yeah. Not to say I haven't second guessed myself a time or two. Craft, we're still getting back. I'm reminded even this week, like we are not perfect. We are still practicing. We're still evolving, and we have ways we can improve and get better. But a few weeks after this is when I knew that this is where the Lord wanted me to be. A few weeks after I had started, Dow had decided to go to a weekend conference called Ministry in the Marketplace. And Dow really didn't know my history too much, but he did know that I was a church kid, wanted to do ministry, and was involved at my church. And he came into the conference room. I remember him set me down, and he said, "Joey, I want to declare that this is not my business; it's the Lord's, it's God's, and I want my business to be a ministry in the marketplace." And he said, "I also want to start building churches." I knew in that moment that if we could stay in business, if we were going to make it, if we could make it, and we have, that this is where I needed to be. And I have been reminded time and time again, because especially before I became a partner and planted even deeper roots here, we all have other opportunities, but it became apparent to me. It's become apparent to me over and over again that this is where I'm supposed to be, and Dow's the person I'm supposed to do it with.
Yeah, it strikes me. I knew that shift had occurred with Dow, but how much thought have you given to the fact that you showed up right as he was going through that shift?
Yeah. Well, I'm a believer in God's sovereignty and providence and His hand in all things. So I believe that I showed up at the right time, and he was dealing with what he needed to deal with at the right time, and we kind of came together at the right time. I really do. It was not by chance. I don't believe in coincidences or luck, what have you, however you want to call it. But I do know that the stars aligned. But we were brought together at the right time. I really do.
And I know you've probably you talked at our company meeting a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure you've spent some time reflecting on like your 20 years here. Mm-hmm. If you had like a highlight reel, I know you're a basketball guy. What's your highlight reel look like at Dow Smith Company? Well,
I would say one of those was the first day I met Gary Grisham. My time with Gary Grisham was very impactful. Gary was a partner here. He passed away about a year and a half ago.
What year just to give people an idea, what year did he get here?
Well, I've been here 20 years. He would have been here like 24 years today. Gotcha. So he had literally walked in the front door at Dow's looking for a project. But my time with Gary, he and I were so aligned when it comes to a sense of urgency and work ethic and his hustle. And he was so gifted at his ingenuity and figuring things out. Now, we both run too hot. Me and Gary ran too hot, so we tended to wear ourselves out too quickly. But my time with Gary was really a highlight, especially those early years, because Dow would cast a vision. He would set the course. He had a lot of relationships then, and me and Gary were really tasked with getting it done. So my time with Gary is really a highlight. There's so many, but I'll stick to the people. We get the right people. Obviously, when we found Shauna 10 years ago through family friend, the day we found Shauna was amazing. Knew that she was the right fit. Obviously, you think about all the clients, the people who we serve. unbelievable highlights. Trey walking in the door, and really, there's a story behind every one of our employees. Taylor,
Yeah.
you're one of those stories. So, the highlights for me is when that next person comes on board, who becomes a member of the Dow Smith family. Every one of those people are a highlight. How their story before they came and how they ended up here, and not just how they ended up here, what happens in their life for the better once they come here. Obviously, we can't take credit for that, but we do provide. I hope that we provide a culture for people to become healthier and more well balanced in their life and to grow. But we can provide a context. So people thriving here is a highlight for me. I've had unbelievable opportunity to grow here and expand on my gifts and abilities. But it's important for me. We've experienced some difficult times here too. So we've had some pruning, we've had some refining through 20 years. I think about 9/11 had happened a few years before I got here. We were still recovering from that when I came on board. We began to ramp up from 2004 to 2008. I had built up quite a bit of backlog. When 2008 hit. So we didn't really start feeling the effects of the Great Recession until 2010, and we barely made it out. So when we have endured those hard times, it has really has made our core values very clear, our mission very clear, and we have identified who we are at our core as a company and as a people who work here. You recover from the Great Recession. Things continue to thrive. Of course, there's bumps and valleys along the road and along the way. But then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And again, you're jolted once again to when those big things happen, you second guess everything. So we have evolved quite a bit. I think for the better. But those are some highlights and some lowlights, because we have had some difficult times. But the highlights are really our people and those milestone projects and those customers who just keep coming back, those relationships.
Yeah, and I think in the same way that you can attach so much meaning to you coming to the company at the right time for the company and at the right time for you, I think all of us have that
that's
story.
right. That's exactly right.
I'll never forget, I guess it's been a year ago, but, we had a new guy join the company and had a tree fell on his place that he was renting. And it's probably 7:30 at night, and you just start a group text that's just like, we got to solve this right now, and I just we got to find him a place to move, to go. I haven't worked a lot of places where the people are the priority, and I think what happens is, and I've talked with Holly and Cody a lot about this, but when you take care of people, then the people benefit from that, but then the company benefits from that,
right.
And then the company's more healthy, which then
right.
it's just this.
Right.
It's the flywheel thing, almost like you talk about.
It is. We want to hire and retain the right people, and we want to cultivate a great culture. And that's really Dallas and I's focus, especially now more than ever. It's a part of what we're developing as our flywheel. But we know that if we get those two things right, things will begin to germinate and take care of themselves outwardly if we can take care of ourselves inwardly as a company and individuals like that.
Well, I wanted to ask you, because we've been, at least in the time that I've been here, not because of me, but just in the time I've been here, we've been so successful and so prosperous. I see sometimes you having to decide when to hit the gas and when to hit the brake, and I also know that you feel the weight of if we say yes to such and such project, what's that going to mean for our PMs, for our supers, for our techs, everybody all along the way. How in 20 years have you started to determine which projects we should do and which ones we should stay away from?
It's I'm still in process with all that, but let me just first say, we if we're talking about people, we kind of all shed off the energy that Dow brings to kind of move us forward, and Dow and I do that together. I bring a lot of energy as well. So sometimes that energy can lead to burnout, and we have worn ourselves out and burned ourselves out and our people out before. So that's one of those hard lessons learned, particularly in the last couple of years, because work has been aplenty. But as we think about which clients to take on, which not, we did what we call a BHAG 15 years ago, big, hairy, audacious goal that we called it at the time. And we wanted to be the premier design builder in Middle Tennessee with clients who are willing to wait on us. So be careful if you do a BHAG and you speak it out loud, it may happen. So we have been blessed with that opportunity that we have we're a great design builder by God's blessing and all the folks' hard work here. But we've had clients here willing to wait on us. So we've had opportunities. We tell people no quite a bit, and so that we can say yes to the right opportunity. But, we have a decision matrix we go through on the clients that we select or that select us. We want to make sure that we have access to the decision maker. We want to make sure that it's a project that we can be passionate about, that we understand the goals of the owner or the decision maker. We want to make sure that our core values line up, because if the core values of the client and the core values of the contractor, especially the design builder, if we're not in line with one another, there's just conflict and heartache throughout the hard thing. Yeah. Because if we don't operate from the similar worldviews, then the project doesn't go as well as it could have. So we're very relational contractor. We have folks that we hire from very large national firms, and we've coined the term, hey, we're not your traditional general contractor, that corporate contracting. We're in the relationship contracting business. So customers that want that relationship, and they want that care, that unique experience that we think we provide, short of just a business transaction. Like if you just want us for a business transaction and we're a commodity to you and we're just a resource to get something done, yeah, we are a resource. But if you don't want that relationship and that experience, we're probably not going to be a good fit. So if you want to partner, we want to be a partner with you. And but if not, if you're just using us for our skills and abilities, it's probably not going to go as great as it could have. Have we done projects like that? Of course we have. We've done stuff just as a typical general contractor, and get in, get out, everybody's happy, we get paid, but we want that relationship. And that's really what I feel is a difference between us and many other contractors around the region.
Absolutely. All right, last question. I always tease you about having a crystal ball, because I feel like a pretty significant chunk of your brain is just a crystal ball. We're in 2024, but you're in like 2025 or 2035.
Yep.
So it might be unfair to ask you what the next 20 years look like for you, but what do the next 20 years look like for Dow Smith Company?
That's a great question. The next 20 years, I hope, are going to be one where we can build people. I'm not the visionary, but I do know that we want to be a part of something special with not just our people here, but people in our community, so that we can reach them and help build people. And we know that if we're building healthy, balanced people here, or at least giving them the opportunity to do that, our business is going to be healthy. Dow likes to say, healthy things grow. So the next 20 years, there will be very, hopefully, not as tumultuous. I probably pronounced that wrong, but they will be 20 years of a roller coaster. The ups and downs. Life happens every day. More people, more problems. But my hope is our experience, the way in which we've navigated all the problems, and both good problems and bad problems the last 20 years, we'll gain from that wisdom. And I'm really looking forward to what's the next generation that's going to rise up amongst our people who will carry the torch forward. I'm 46. Sean is about the same age. Trey's a little bit younger. Dow's 57. We're not going to live forever. We probably don't want to work this hard forever. So I'm really looking forward to what God has in store and the people He's going to bring us, the people who are going to grow here. So I'm hoping that we are going to build a sustainable company for years to come that are going to impact our community and the families that are a part of this for years to come. That's my hope.
I believe it, because I trust your crystal ball. Well, thank you for making time for this today. Thank you for your 20 years and the tremendous impact that you've had, not only on our company and our community, but just on the lives of people like me who are honored to work here. So thanks for being on today, and thank you guys for listening.
I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing? I told that we had a gentleman, Philip Street, started with us this week, and I called him, asked him how his first day went. He said, well, thanks for the opportunity. I said, well, thanks for taking a chance on us. Everybody, I took a chance coming here. Everyone who works here is taking a chance. So I just, I'm so grateful for the people who have taken a chance on me and Dow and Sean and Trey to hey, I'm going to take a risk, come to work here. I also want to give a shout out to Dow. I tell people, I'm so grateful that Dow has given me opportunities. They gave me the job when I needed it and given me opportunities to work here. And he gives you opportunities and he gets out of your way. Yeah. So, shout out to Dow for taking risk. He's the one who took the risk 33 years ago. Cindy was a huge part of that. So just a special word of gratitude to Dow and Cindy for sticking it out through the hard years and giving us all the opportunity to do something special. I do think we're doing something special.
I completely agree. Yeah. I think we all feel that in one way or another. Yeah. He didn't tell me he was going to fire my ass if I messed it up. So I don't know. Maybe
he was pretty raw in 2004.
The stakes weren't quite as high.
Raw in 2004.
But that's a great story. But yeah, it is. It's. I'm excited about the next 20 years.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. I'm excited. Well, I'm excited about just today. Just the things that we have so many cool things just going on today.
So keep calling us, clients. Keep calling us.
Yeah.
We're going to serve you well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.